everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Senior Living Today. At the Ohio Masonic Communities, we pride ourselves on being at the forefront of technology and innovation in the senior living space. Today, I'll be joined by Jason French and Melissa Todd to discuss some of the new technologies and advancements we have implemented with the renovations at Western Reserve Masonic Community in Medina, Ohio. Melissa and Jason, thank you both so much for being with us today.
Glad we could be here.
Yeah, so I know that this expansion project actually started with renovating your community centers. And one of the advancements in that space is the Bluetooth technology that makes programs and speakers easier for our community members to hear. So what is that and how does that work?
Yes, actually in our community center and in our multi-purpose room that's going to be in our new SNF wing, which stands for Skilled Nursing Facility. We have a Bluetooth ribbon that has been installed underneath the carpet. And what that does is that for community members that have a hearing device that has a T-coil, which is a device that connects to Bluetooth technology, they use their app, they can connect to it as well. The moment that they walk into those spaces, their hearing aid will connect directly to whatever is coming through the speakers on our campus. So whether that's a singer, whether that's a speaker giving a presentation, whether that's a movie that we're watching on the Friday night movies, everything instantly goes straight to that person's hearing aid, as opposed to them trying to wear a headset or sitting in a certain spot because that's their best place that they can hear at inside the room. So it allows that individual to use their hearing aid device to connect directly to our sound system, which is really, really neat and has been a great addition. It's one of my favorite pieces of tech that we've put into this project.
So is that a very common piece of technology that's used in the senior living space? I feel like this is the first I've ever heard of something like this.
It is. We are definitely one of the first that I'm aware of. I know it was the first installation of this type of system for SoundCom, who's our company that did the installation. You're seeing a lot of this at stadiums and like basketball venues, like Quicken Loans Arena has this technology that's inside their setup as well, where you can connect directly to Bluetooth to a hearing aid. So it is a really newer technology that's out there. And if we're not the first, we've got to be one of the very first in senior living to be using this type of tech.
So let's move on to the new healthcare center renovations. And let's talk about the MedMiser beds. What are they and what makes them so unique?
So the MedMiser beds are a really awesome piece of technology that enables our team members to completely position a community member from a sleeping, laying down position in the bed up to sitting at the edge of the bed without ever laying hands on that community member in a physical manner to assist them. So what in most cases becomes our biggest opportunity for an injury to take place, whether that's for a staff member or for a community member, when we're physically having to help move those community members that need that type of assistance, has now become one of the safest things that we can do. So what would normally take one person or even two to reposition someone, get them to the edge of the bed, tuck them in the right appropriate manner, get your arms under one side down by their knees and then one by the head to then completely manually help rotate them to get them to the edge of the bed. This is all now completely done by this bed that uses kind of a hydraulic lift system that bends the knees and the back portion, kind of like an automated recliner, and then also then rotates that position to the side of the bed. So it kind of takes the bed and makes it almost like a lift recliner, but a lift recliner that rotates and then gets the person to the side of the bed. And then in the inverse of that, once you're standing up and using the restroom or whatever activity you were getting up for to go back, you sit back down in that chair and then the bed rotates in without ever having to lay hands on the individual. So, transferring, which is helping someone get up and down from bed, is where probably 90% of the injuries take place in our industry. And this completely eliminates that from ever happening.
So a lot of benefits then for both our employees and community members.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about when you talk about for the community member, imagine somebody who just had a total hip replacement done and they've been in bed in the hospital because the hospital doesn't let you get up and move. Once you're there, you stay. You might have a therapy session that happens. And so all that core muscle strength in your body is gone. So it can just be exhausting to sit at the edge of the bed. And oftentimes our therapists spend just the first day or so working on getting someone to the edge of the bed, coming off of of a surgery. Now that exercise is being done by this bed that's rotating, and now we can start working on more high level functioning things faster. And what does that mean for the patient? It means better care. It means we're using less energy on doing basic skills and then allowing you to work with a therapist on more higher difficulty things because you're not exhausted from just getting to the side of the bed, which gets you back at home faster than you would in a normal setting without it. So there's definitely collateral benefits, not just, to the safety pieces of it, but the collateral benefit for what that does for that community member, especially in short-term rehab, can be really significant.
So I noticed when I toured the suite that there are tracks on the ceilings. So what is the purpose of these and how does this benefit residents and our staff as well?
Yes, so we are a no lift community. So what does that mean? So in most typical skilled nursing facilities, use what is called a Hoyer lift. And for lack of a better term, a Hoyer lift is an engine jack. So if you've ever seen an engine jack that, is kind of like this big crane that's got two legs that shoot out and it disperses the weight of the engine as it's being picked up and moved in and then manually being taken back, those are basically Hoyer lifts, except in a garage. A Hoyer lift works in the same way. It slides underneath the bed, you get hooked to a harness, and then you're moving backwards, and it takes two people to do that. And there's a bit of swaying that happens when you're doing that, because if you ever thought about, backing up a grocery cart that's really full and trying to turn it in a tight space, well, that's exactly what you're doing with a Hoyer lift, except there's someone hanging from the centerpiece and their weight is shifting back and forth. So because we don't use those Hoyer lifts, we actually have ceiling lifts that are in our community, which are much safer to use. It requires far less hands-on. And so those tracks extend from one side going perpendicular across the bed. So it doesn't run the same length head to toe of the bed. It goes side to side. And what that allows for is for a lift to be attached to that track, lower down to that community member, then have the sling that the person would be in come around them, attached to the lift, and then be lifted directly up without having to be pulled side to side, and then slid to the side with one caregiver and placed down in the chair that they would be transferring into. So it's a device that eliminates a safety concern, less hands-on care being provided, and a safer transfer for that community member and in a more safer feeling way. So it takes away, kind of this pull and 5-point turn that you would have to do in what a traditional skilled nursing facility would have with a Hoyer lift, and does this in a single track that can get the community member to either side of the bed with one person in a very safe manner, rather than having to bring a full apparatus into the room. And those are in all of our rooms. So it's not just in short-term rehab, it's in our long-term care wing. Again, making a better, safer transfer for everyone involved.
So what kind of technology and advancements can we expect to find in the physical therapy rooms?
Actually, a really neat thing is in our physical therapy space. From a technology standpoint, the ceiling lifts also come in a setup where you can run kind of two lifts tracks next to each other, and becomes the fancy term is an XY gantry, which basically means that you can go left and right and forwards and backwards in this. And that lift system, again, completely safe, allows for one person to use it. What that allows us to do is to use a sling or harness that can be used so that a person can stand with weight bearing restrictions. So a lot of times when you have ortho patients like with a total knee or a hip, they might have 50% weight bearing. And well, how can you guarantee that someone has 50% weight bearing? We can guarantee that because we are going to take 50% of the person's weight and hold it in the harness. So that way we know for sure when we're standing up and working on a parallel bars, or we're working with core muscle strengthening with a physical therapist, that we are able to completely remove that weight bearing status and allow it to be safe, which is really, really neat. Another piece of technology that's in there, and while it's not maybe necessarily tech, but we get to use some of our cool tech, is that we do diathermy, we do electric stimulation, so for muscles and things like that. But one of the neat things that we added in there to help with this is a space that you can do that and be completely private. We call them therapy cabanas, which are really great. So they're actually rooms built into the therapy gym that are completely private, so that you can be working on a mat table that, by the way, is also powerized, so that lifts up and down, so you can adjust that for hip size, but allows us to use this technology oftentimes where you might have to have an article of clothing removed, or you're having to lie down in a very vulnerable position. In most places that have this, whether it's a chiropractor's office or other skilled nursing facilities, there might be a curtain that gets pulled somewhere in a room to be able to do that, but it's only usually on one side and you're feeling very exposed and vulnerable. In our space, you're able to do that in a completely private setting, and do it and be able to use the technology like the diathermy for heat therapy and for e-stim with the electric stimulation on muscles to be able to do that, which is a really nice thing for us to be able to have.
So now let's move on to the final area of the expansion, which is the new independent living apartments and community areas. Melissa, can you tell us about this new space and some of the amenities that have been implemented here?
Absolutely. I was honored to be able to be a part of the grand opening for this expansion project. And when we opened our doors and allowed folks to move in, they had one of 7 different apartments to choose from. So the variety there are 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms, which was very new to our industry and our demographic area in Medina. So the size was rather impressive to those folks exploring some downsizing options. So inside each apartment, it comes with your appliance package. One of the biggest questions we had was if there are a washer and dryer in unit. And yes, we do have a washer and dryer in unit. In most apartments, it's actually located in their walk-in closet, because what better area or space to complete your laundry and then successfully and easily put it back away. One other amenity space that we consider a hot commodity is the underground parking garage. Since most of our community members are still driving when they move onto campus, they like to know that they have a safe and secured parking space that is away from the weather or the elements here in Northeast Ohio. And then some of the more fun and socially active spaces would be our pub, our Hive Cafe. And I've seen a lot of different programs coming out of the new fitness gym with our exercise physiologist, Lita. She's been working on different programs, whether that's a balance class. We have our PACE arthritis class happening in that space, but it's also open to folks to use as they want to, maybe work on their balance, their gait, their stamina. So it's nice to see folks involved in that space if they have certain fitness goals.
So as we finish up today, I would love for both of you to just share what you feel is kind of the most exciting piece of this expansion, or, what are our community members and families most excited about? What are you guys hearing?
I think that the most exciting part would be the outdoor space. That was always a space that, folks want to be in, get that natural light, get that fresh air. And the new expansion has this beautiful back patio where we've been able to do different concerts and outside barbecues. There's a fire pit that I know has been used a lot this summer, and hopefully into the fall we'll have some nice days to cook some s'mores on that. And also kind of the grill area. We had community members for Labor Day, being able to be outside grilling hot dogs and hamburgers for their families outside in that space. So I think that experience was awesome to share with the families that came to visit as well.
Yeah, and I think actually, because we've covered so much already in this about the things that I think that are really neat. But one of the things we didn't talk about is some of the stuff that actually most people never see, and it's the kitchen that we designed on this campus for independent living. The technology that is in that dining services space has allowed us to really work like an actual restaurant. We've got technology in there with combi ovens and some other pieces of equipment back there that, lots of restaurants in our area don't have. And it just allows us to work in a manner that's more efficient and allows us to work more like an actual restaurant rather than, what you might typically think is happening in a senior living community that might feel more institutionalized. We're able to really act and work like an actual restaurant does with how we produce food, how we serve our food. And then in the end, that provides a much better experience for our community members. So I think I'm most excited. I'm a kitchen guy. I'm a food guy to begin with, but I think my favorite thing is how the kitchens were designed and the technology we use in there to make our experience for our community members and our families that much better.
Well, I want to thank you both again for joining me today and sharing more information about the expansion at Western Reserve Masonic Community and some of those technological advancements that we've implemented there. For all of our listeners, please make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a new episode, and we will be back again in 2 weeks.